The retention audit history is something that is not really developed in our training manual. For those who years ago took our training classes, even our online training classes that we're developing, we just haven't dealt with this subject a whole lot, so I want to do that right now. It's the method by which you track different versions of the retention manager reports. I use this all the time in my consulting practice. It gives me an opportunity that when I send drafts of reports to clients, that I know which version they have, and when they ask about a certain report of a certain date, I can find that report even though we've produced other reports with other dates. So let's talk about how I recommend you store reports. Let's go back to Retention Manager. I'll open up the report screen and I'll take Legal Research Index. This is the listing of the various reports. One of the things I would like you to do all the time with reports, these are the full listing of system reports. I want you to move the reports you're going to use day in and day out into the user define area. Right click, copy the user define area. It copies a version of the reports to the user defined area. For this exercise, I'm going to do it simple, and then I'm going to get a little more complicated. Double click on the report. First thing it asks you is which printer do you want to use. For reports, I generally like to use PDF. I have a third-party Foxit PDF writer on my computer. You might have Adobe Distiller on yours. You should have some sort of PDF writer or printer on your system. PDF is really the best way to distribute reports in your organization. I pick that. That becomes my default printer for the session. I do OK, and I get my full legal research report. Notice how quickly it did that. It did 190 pages, dealt with 3,094 laws. And this is basically the default setup with one minor modification that I just made. Now, if I want to distribute this report and save it, any PDF writer will ask you where it should be saved. Let me show you a structure of how to do it. I'm going to print it, which is the way they save it. Yes, I want to print it and print the whole thing. And that'll give me a directory view. I can put it wherever it is I want to put it. You get a whole view of my computer and everything that's going on. I decide I want to put it in this directory under Retman. I want to put it under my user data, under CO1, and here are my reports. By default, Retention Manager under your Retman user data. I'll show you that again. So wherever directory you're on, by the way, the Windows 7 version has a way of handling data, and actually I'm not pointing to the right one. The Windows 7 version of Retention Manager, which is now out, puts it under the Program Data directory, under our subdirectory. We also have a product called Wizard, which will also go there. Under Retman or Retention Manager, User Data, CO1, and we create a directory called Reports for you. While I'm on this screen, I might as well mention when you do a backup, there's a backup directory, and you'll see this in a second. I had put the input data for the user records under data. If we back up profile, that's where it's located, and reports are here. Under reports initially, there are no subdirectories. What I recommend you do is create a new folder and date it according to the current date. Year first, 2012, the month, 05, and today I hope is the 22nd, and put it by, if it's not 22nd, you can put in the correct date. Oh, it is 22nd, and create a directory that looks like that. You then open it and then put your tables in. Some of the PDF writers add crystal reports, some put the name of the report. You should take the opportunity to name the reports properly. I don't need the word crystal reports in there. I can't stop it from doing it. That's by default, that's within crystal reports, and we don't have control over that particular function. So you could rename it and save it, and now you have a location for your reports. Just so you know, if you, on the same day, if you created a second version of reports, you could overwrite this if you want, or if there was a second version you wanted to keep separate, our convention would be to put the date in 2012, 05, 22A, then B, then C, etc. And then you can keep track of different versions that you did at different times. And so I can put the report in and save it. So if you start building those up, then after you send out the reports, and a couple weeks later you get comments, you make corrections and create a new set of reports, you'll have a series of directories by date that'll let you know how you set up things, and we strongly recommend you follow a pattern such as that. I'm now going to show you then how you create an audit trail as you put this all together. Our data, as you've seen all along, is in red. It is proposed. What I want to do right now, and I'll show you on our slides, is I want to authorize all my functions. And the way you do that, you go into Functions, Authorize, and we're going to authorize all of them. And this is a form of approving your retention so that in the future when you make changes, you will then be proposing new changes in the process. And then I'll show you how to do the reports that correspond to that. So instead of all the reds, I am now going to authorize all our data. That means it's been reviewed, it's approved, everybody agrees this is what the retention should be. Functions, administrator functions, authorize, authorize all. And when I do that, notice the screen zips by. Look, if those who were quick may have noticed that in the legal group index it changed color. Our black color is the authorized or approved data. The retention periods move from the right, proposed, to our left, authorized, meaning they've been approved and are ready to go. What I would do after you've done this is, I know it's jumping ahead just a little bit. Well, actually, it's not. If you look at our outline, when we work with the approved schedules, what I would like you to do after you authorize it is to store the approved schedules with a PDF schedule with a notation that it was approved. So use the same date grouping with maybe the word approved or anything you would like to do. So all our data has been approved. I'm going to take our reports screen, and let's say I'll do legal research one more time. And now I'm going to print it, and I'll say OK. And instead of going into these other directories under reports, I'm going to create a new directory under reports. And this one I'm going to call 2012 055 05 22, and maybe have the word approved. And now you can put in all your approved PDF reports, so you will have a full record of all the reports that were approved as of a certain point in time. And you'll be able to go back and refer to these, and if questions come up, you have a full set of electronic records in PDF form. Hopefully they're backed up. And you can print these out if you want, or if you have a good, reliable backup system, you can work off the PDF. The other thing our slide mentioned was then to back up the authorized data. And how do we do this? We do this by going back into Retention Manager, Functions, Administrator Functions, Backup, Current Client. You only have one current client. I happen to have a few of them. So when you do that and click on it, what it does is create a backup of all your current data, and it does this and creates a user directory and puts the user data backup information there. Now I don't have my system so you can see my full directory, but I can emulate it to you by going through the report writer again and printing it and saving it. And what I'm going to do right now is to show you, instead of reports, show you my backup scheme. And for whatever reason, it didn't store it there. But somewhere in my backups, I'll probably, because it hasn't refreshed from a Windows standpoint, I apologize for that. It is there. There's a backup directory that has the same structure of the file directories I showed you previously for the reports, and it's now available for backup. I'm sure if I closed off Retention Manager that, and we went back through it, we should be able to find it pretty quickly. So that's what happens when we do backups. If you ever wanted to restore from a backup, Functions, Administrator Functions, Restore User Data, and notice it did create directories. I've done a number of things today that led to a backup of my data, and notice how it's automatically numbered my directories with the date by year, month, and day. And since I had multiple backups that I created today, A, B, C, and D, and you can select a backup, and you can then restore the data as it existed at that time. I will warn you that after the course of a number of years, we sometimes change our data formats. We are trying to make sure we are always backward compatible, but every once in a while, if you brought back data from 3 years ago, there's a chance of incompatibility. We can often help you restore it, but normally we recommend you keep up to date with your Retention Manager, keep your subscription up to date, and you'll be able to restore your data.